For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's Tuesday practice of Notre Dame week and what could be the Trojans' last Tuesday practice of the season, depending on how Saturday goes. But Dan, how do you think the practice went?
Well, I mean, at least we don't have to say goodbye to No Pads November. I guess we're going to say no more November after today, unless they win. Unless they beat Notre Dame. That's what catches you up is you stand there thinking this could be the last pads practice of the season.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know that for the players, the coaches, any of us realize this could be it. I mean, it's almost, well, I mean, I think I've been here 17 years and never had that situation before, other than when they got sanctioned and they wouldn't let them go. But at least then you could feel like, okay, well, we should have gone and we would have gone. And to have that just maybe gone, it doesn't register yet, I don't think.
Yeah, but and that's the interesting thing, the interesting predicament that USC's in, because do you be a realist? Do you think, okay, this is a number 3 Notre Dame team coming into the Coliseum and in a front seven that Clay Helton called one of the hardest that they'll see all season long? Are you a realist? Do you do the senior tunnel tomorrow after practice? Do you prepare mentally like this is the last week of practice? Or are you optimistic and think that, hey, you never know what could happen on Saturday?
I think you got to just do it Saturday. Saturday, is senior day, and you just have to wrap it all into one. This is probably not a year where you want to attach a great deal of celebration to the practice field. Yep. I think you have to assume, as Clay kept saying, this is a great opportunity. I think you just have to assume we're going to do this. USC has upset Notre Dame before, when the whole world thought USC didn't have a chance. And you just have to, in this series, you just have to say, who knows, maybe it will. I think you got to go from that standpoint, that this isn't the last game.
Yeah. In that sense, what was the mood like at practice today? What did you think that they accomplished today?
I think it was businesslike. I think they've been through so many of these practices, and as Clay said, they're not changing them. They just do what they do. They did resurrect a little tackling work for the DBs. They had them diving into kind of a porta pit where they had the inflatable pads in front of the porta pit, smaller inflatable dummies, and so extending through and doing a little form tackling at speed, something they didn't do last week, including Saturday, unfortunately. But that might have been the only real change today. I think they know what they're doing and they go through it. And I don't know that we always know how this is going to play out. 2 weeks ago, the defense really showed up to play against Cal mostly. Last week they didn't. I don't know that and was that mostly a schematic thing? Was it a thing that they didn't get done in practice, or was it a thing that UCLA took advantage of and found something during the game, and USC just didn't adjust, properly? So it's hard to sometimes take what's happening here and, look to Saturday and say, well, I see what's going on here. This is how it's going to, affect Saturday. I don't think we have any idea. I think the personnel situation is getting a little iffy on defense. I don't think there's any question about that. The number of healthy bodies. That's going to be an interesting, thing. How they finish up the week and who's ready to play.
Yeah, as far as injuries go, Marvell Tell had a heavily taped left ankle. He could barely really move on that. He was dressed out and tried to be in some drills, but it was very limited. And then Greg Johnson, Clay Helton announced that Greg Johnson is out for the rest of the season with a shoulder surgery. So that is a very depleted secondary right there. But Chuma Edoga did return to practice. He looked pretty good during one-on-ones. Cedric Ware was limited, but he did dress out. So those are guys that are touch and go right now.
Yeah, I thought Cedric looked good for what we'd heard, and where he was. And one, just extremely good-looking run. Vavai, Malapai, like he always does, looked great. Marquise Tepp looked good. I'm guessing this will be his fourth game if he plays, and Indiana kid. I think we probably could expect him to be out there Saturday.
Yeah. We got to talk to Brian Ellis, the quarterback's coach, about JT Daniels, and JT Daniels faced some criticism during the game against UCLA. But what do you have to say about that criticism that he's getting?
Well, I thought Brian had some good coaching points because he had 337 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, but the 2 interceptions, and they aren't backing off in terms of those shouldn't have happened, and even though they call them shot plays where they're back up almost to the goal line and he ends up throwing the ball 50, 55 yards and it gets it picked off on first down where they just take a shot. And as difficult as it might always be to read, and I guess UCLA, for the first time in a long time, I dropped the second guy, so he's thrown into double coverage, and something they hadn't done, and they ran play action, and he didn't pick up the fact that UCLA had an extra defender there, and you got to do that. He said, then you got to pick up that second defender on the deep guy, and you have to then throw the ball away. And no, he's just. I think the interesting thing that Brian Ellis said was, if you're the quarterback, you have to protect the play caller. And I said, wow, you're asking a 18-year-old kid first time out to protect the play caller. That's asking a lot. And he said, it's exactly what you do. If you're the quarterback, you're probably going to get more blame than you deserve. And if you're going to get more praise than you deserve. But he said, what you have to do if you're the quarterback, at the end of the play, USC still has to have the ball. You can't give it away. He said, would have been second down. You could just, you got 2 more downs to get the first down. You just throw it away and come back and make that next play. And that may be of all the things that they really want to see JT work on. But I thought it was interesting. Michael Pittman had some, he said, JT, he didn't get spring ball.
Yeah.
In August, he said he was competing, so he didn't get that many plays. They all competed. And so he didn't get to develop, kind of a rapport with the wide receivers.
Yeah.
And so he said that time where maybe he could have been developing in camp, he's doing it now. So Michael Pittman said, this is what you expect. You're gonna, and that's a place where you could probably second guess. Should they have, if they had an idea how this was going to develop, do you not do the 3-way quarterback competition through the summer, and do you just give him those extra reps? Because and Michael would be the key guy here, said we just didn't have that much time with JT before the season started, and then here the season's here, and you're developing game plans each week, and he's not getting as much of that development time. So that was an interesting way to look at it, and probably a good perspective from both Coach Ellis and Michael Pittman, who also, I guess Michael we were talking about what was the news. He's pretty strongly indicating he's coming back, although he is getting his NFL evaluation, and he's going to see. I mean, he has all the reasons why he should come back, for strength purposes, and to learn what's a good diet, and all the things that he needs to be able to do to play in the NFL. And he said he knows he's not ready yet. He's not, he doesn't have the physique, he doesn't have the toughness and all that he's really going to need to compete at that top level. But that still, I don't think that means that he's going to be back. But he wants to be back. He said he wants to be, wants to be a captain, wants to be a leader, like Cam and Sam, which I think is interesting, because only one of those two came back for his senior year to be a captain.
Yeah.
So, but I think of the newsworthy part of the practice, that might have been it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to lead into. Also, did you see my soccer skills? I stopped the ball from hitting us. Yeah, but Pittman said that barring an amazing NFL evaluation, he'll be coming back. He actually said he was surprised that everyone's assumed that he was leaving for the NFL, but he said that he wants to be. Wow, we are being attacked by soccer balls right now. He said that he was surprised that everyone thought that he was going to leave, but he said that he wants to be on the All-American wall. He wants to be a vocal leader, and that's something that he said he needs to improve on.
Well, I think everybody assumes because of his dad and that he's just going to move right on. I thought it was very smart stuff that he said. Very he's right on the money. I mean, I think he makes a good point. Talking about coming back, I thought it was interesting. Clay could not have more strongly talked about how much he's looking forward to getting JT and Jack Sears another training camp, and then really two more training, spring ball and summer August camp. So, you don't get any sense from anything that Clay says that there is any question or any doubt about coming back. There's an awful lot of references to the next things that are going to happen. So, but he couldn't. I mean, and you look at this year and you say what might have been. There's no way you could get JT in here for the spring, but you look back at what happened in August and you think, would you have been better off working on developing all of the things that they're talking about developing now?
Yeah, well, you mentioned the bigger picture is Clay Helton and his job security. I mean, how much does this Notre Dame game, mean in the grand scheme of things?
I don't know. To be honest, if you didn't think it was working and wasn't going to work in the future, a win in the Notre Dame game might more convince you that, hey, if you beat Notre Dame, how in the heck did you lose to Arizona State and Cal and UCLA? So I think a win in the Notre Dame game almost works against the storyline that you got to come back. I think it would be like, well, wait a minute, that's how did this happen? Maybe this team really was talented. So I would think it has. I mean, I guess if you get blown out, record loss, and that would be asking something because they've had a 51-0 loss that John McKay was able to make that work for him for the rest of his career. But I don't know how an absolute beatdown. I don't know if that would affect things or not. I wouldn't want to, if I were, Clay, I wouldn't want to try and see.
No, I don't think that's the goal for anyone there. But any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I think this is one of the strangest weeks we're probably ever. And when you say that about USC, and you think of all the strange weeks.
I was about to say.
When you show up at practice and the coach isn't there, and you go, where's the coach? Nobody knows. I mean, we've had days where it's just crazy from beginning to end, weeks that it's crazy from beginning to end. But this is a weird week.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just to think that this could be it. That 78 teams are playing in bowl games and USC in one of them. It's almost impossible to imagine in this Pac-12 conference that you couldn't figure out a way to get through with 6 wins. I mean, so I think everybody's trying to process it and doesn't know exactly what to think about where they are, where USC is, where they're going to be in next week and all of that. Very, very unusual time to be at USC, but then there have been a lot of those.
Yep. More strange times at USC, but that's going to wrap it up for Tuesday's practice of Notre Dame week. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.